all's fair in love and war. So I snuggle up close to the shell I'm living in. And if I let you in, another round begins. No, I'm spinning in a vicious cycle. I'm scared of doing something I'll regret. Maybe this is right, but I'm still staring at your silhouette. But what if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I miss out on the life meant for us? I need you by my side.
Should I be scared? The feeling's so different now. You got me floating here, a feather in the air. Oh, but when the wind blows, will I tumble or sail away? Or would you have me stay? And what if I escape? I know
I'm spinning in a vicious cycle. I'm scared of doing something I'll regret. Maybe this is right, but I'm still staring at your silhouette. But what if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I miss out on the life?
All right. How's everyone doing? Thanks for tuning in. We have a really special stream today, but I just want to say thanks so much for all of your tracks last week. We're going to do that again, I think, next week. So be sure to submit your tracks into the Get Feedback channel. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, check out last week's stream. Look in the description. You'll find a link to our new community channel, Get Feedback, where you can submit your tracks for others to listen to, and then that will feature on the stream. So we'll likely be doing that next week. So keep submitting them, and we'll choose some to feature. For this stream, we actually have a very special guest. His name is Beautiful. His name is Beautiful Beats. He's an amazing producer, content creator on all platforms. He has over 700,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, millions of streams, and today he's going to share his story on how he got to where he is and give you any tips and strategies on how to promote your music, how to make content that's effective, that will reach people, and build your fan base. I think these are all topics that most of us struggle with. It's a noisy spot to be in as an artist, but if you can make something special, people will gravitate to you, and I'm looking forward to discussing that with him in this stream. So before we start, just give me a shout out in the chat where you're viewing from. I always like to see all of the people around the world letting us know where your mic might be turned off, James says. Is it? No. Well, we'll see what happens here. All right, how's it going? There he
What's
is.
up? Hi guys, what's going on?
Yeah, James left a message saying mic might be turned off, but I'm getting signal here, so just leave me a message in the chat if you can hear us. It should be
I
good
can hear
though.
you.
Yeah,
So,
that's the most important part. As long as we can
Right.
have the conversation and it's recorded. Okay, cool.
Right.
James probably has his mute button on or something.
the mic's not going to work if your volume's down. So
Yeah. But yeah, welcome to the stream. Thanks so much for being
Thank you.
here. I've been checking out your music beforehand just to, look into what kind of music you're making and the type of content you're making. And, you just
Thank you.
released a YouTube video with Lander, and we gave you a bunch of stuff at random to use. And I think what you
Yep.
made turned out pretty awesome. So if you haven't watched that, it's on the Lander YouTube channel. But
Yep.
yeah. How did you do it?
that's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean, so I guess I could start kind of at the beginning of where I kind of even got the inspiration for music, which I think kind of comes from a funny spot. when I was in high school, I sat next to this kid who was very nice, and but he was like always kind of listening to music, and he was like, bro, you got to get Apple Music, right? He's like, you got to get Apple Music, and I was like, I'd only listen to like the radio, sit in the back seat of my parents' car, like whatever my mom was playing was on the radio. I didn't know that there was this whole other world of music that wasn't on the radio, right? There's
Right, right.
there's songs that even have like cuss words in them that aren't on the radio. Like I was just like kind of completely oblivious to this whole other world. So yeah, my boy was like, dude, you gotta like Chance just dropped an album, Chance the Rapper. He was like, Kanye just dropped an album. And I'm like, okay, I've heard of these. I've heard of Kanye. No idea who that other guy is, whatever. So it was my senior year. So it was like 2017. I think Kanye dropped Life of Pablo. And it was Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book. Two great albums. I'm not like the biggest fan of like rap and things like that. But when I was like listening to it, I was like, wow, like this is a whole different world of music. So I kind of like got into like the YouTube rabbit holes of like, how is this kind of music made? Like I think I saw a video of like maybe Kanye making a beat or something like that. And then that went into a rabbit hole, and I started watching this guy named Pat Ryan, who I don't think makes YouTube videos anymore, but he was like one of the first dudes on YouTube, like how to make a beat for so-and-so, and I was just like, wow, like this is really cool. So I had a little bit of piano knowledge, not much. From growing up, I took some piano lessons, but I kind of just found a cracked version of Logic on the internet and kind of just got to it from there. And then I guess I'll just keep going with the story. But I then kind of like messed around with beats. It was like fun and I enjoyed it. I wasn't making anything good at all. Terrible. And then I got into school. I went to college to play basketball at a small school in Ohio. So that was kind of like my main focus. That's kind of what I identified as. I was an athlete my whole life. Music was not really a big thing for me. But as I was in college, I was still making beats. I was having fun with it, and I didn't tell anybody I was making music. Nobody knew, not a single person, not like my mom, my dad, or like the only people that knew. I kind of fiddled around with it. So I kind of thought to myself, I was like, if I don't put these anywhere, they are never going to get heard, right? That is just the basic, if you don't do that, then you don't get that. So I started just like uploading beats with like a picture, not even my face in it, just to like the Instagram, beautiful beats. I thought I was going to remain like faceless the entire time. I was just going to, upload beats. People would listen to them. Maybe I'd sell a couple. Cause at that point, social media wasn't like this crazy place where everyone's like on showing their face and like everything. Like Instagram was very much so like you take a picture with your family at vacation and share it to your friends. So
Right.
Yeah. So like I started doing that in secret. I was terrified, like horrified that anyone would find out. I was so embarrassed. I don't know why that I was making music. I guess it came from a couple reasons, right? I was probably pretty insecure about what I was making. I wasn't really proud of, the stuff I was making. And like I said, I identified and was a basketball player. I was an athlete my whole life. How would people respond? I was afraid of getting judged by other people for sure, which I think some people can relate to. So yeah, I then just continued to build, started to put my face in videos, started to do some different things, maybe like a tutorial here on Instagram. So now I'm doing a lot more than just putting up a beat with a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I got out of school, I was like, okay, you know what? I've made a little bit of money. It's nothing crazy, but I think if I really gave this a shot, I could be something. I interned for BeatStars, which is like shows somewhat the power of social media. Like I was trying to find an internship. It was during COVID, and I was just like, God, I have nothing. I joined a live stream of BeatStars, and I was like, hey, I need an internship. And from social media, they knew who I was and gave me that internship, which was big for me as a senior in college with no internship. So that was cool. And I was like, wow, this is really powerful. People notice, like, I didn't even need a resume. They just, social media was kind of my resume to get that job. Mm-hmm. So I worked there for my last summer, or last year of school. And then I was like, okay, I think if I have a year, right, if I go from January to the end of December, I think I can really do this full time. I think my goal, if I was living in my parents' basement, I was like, okay, can I make $30,000 in a year? My first year out of school, can I get to that point? And that was like kind of my goal was like, okay.
That's a
And
modest goal, I think.
yeah, I was just basing it off like I'd done it for 4 years while in school. I was like, okay, if I now have 100% of my time towards this, can I get to that? So that was kind of like, I was like, okay, if I can do that, I think that's a pretty solid, because my parents were not, like, oh, here's a sure thing, he's gonna go into the basement and he's gonna, make money and it's gonna be all peaches and cream. So, there was a lot to prove to them, I think. So they
Yeah.
wanted to do some other thing, get another job. So yeah, it was probably a bit of a modest goal. So I think I actually got close that first year and I was like, all right, we have something here. It continued to grow. I slowly got more comfortable with telling people, surprised a couple of my friends when they were like, what are you doing now? And I was like, well, I've been posting on social media for the last, 4 years without you knowing.
My gosh.
And
It's
then,
funny, like, when we're young, how we discover things, like how you discovered music and these whole other worlds pop out. And then there's the fear of putting yourself out there when you're young. Like, now I'm older now, like my brain is fully formed and
yeah,
I don't care about anything.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
that's great.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that's like, and you always heard that from older people when you were young. It's like, put yourself out there, do not care what people think.
it's hard,
And
easier said than done.
it is easier said than done, but if you can talk yourself into putting yourself out there when you're younger and not care, that's step one of doing it, right? So like,
Yes.
all of your successes so far have been built on that initial step to put yourself out there.
Yes,
Um,
I would say with that, it was the first step, but a lot of my insecurities also is what drove me to be better. Like
right,
to
right.
be, which I don't think is the best place to, pull from to, get there. You should do stuff off of your own joy and your love for doing it. Which I did have some of that, but yeah, I was like, okay, I have to do this so I can prove this to this or do this, prove this to myself and prove that person. And they'll think, that's unfortunately where I was pulling it from
Right,
when
right.
I was younger.
And that's not
Um,
uncommon either. So
no, not at all.
I'm
It's
sure everyone
actually,
goes through the same thing.
yeah, it's wildly common. I think there was actually a study done on like entrepreneurs and they all had three things in common. They were one, wildly insecure, and they felt like they had to, prove and had to prove to the other people that they were better than maybe what they thought they were. Two, they had incredible impulse control. When it was time to, either watch TV or get work done, they were able to sit down and do the work and focus for long periods of times and do something consistently. And then the third thing is they have a superiority complex where they think, although they might be insecure, they think they deserve more than some people, or they are like the center of the universe. And as bad or as some of those might be, I definitely subconsciously and consciously have all three of those things. Um, which is a point I was trying to make. Like, I very much so am an entrepreneur. Like, I always wanted to do my own thing. Music was an avenue that I liked enough to do that. Like if I could have done it, selling whatever or making like a basketball company or something like that, I think I could have done that. But music was the avenue and social media was the avenue that I found, the most success with. And
Hmm.
it was kind of a way for me to be an entrepreneur as well. So I think that's a big part of it. It wasn't always just about the music. I love the business side of things, which, we can get into as well. But
Yeah,
that's a
that's a really great intro to like how you got started, and thinking about your music as a business and being aware of all of the revenue streams that you have available as an artist. Right, there's lots to get into. But yeah, what was your first like source of revenue in that first year? Was it mainly selling beats?
Yeah, good question. I would say I would do custom beats. I think custom beats and like the occasional like uh promotional thing on social media. So like if a company had a plugin they wanted to taught me to talk about, I think I really took advantage of those things in the early going. And then yeah, as I was kind of building some traction and people were like noticing, I'd just be like, hey, you know, I'll make you a custom beat for $200. You can have the exclusive license. And you know, people would contact me and I would be like, all right. And I would kind of just crank out custom beats for a little while because that's really all I knew how to do. So those were some of the early ones right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, like, I think a big barrier to entry for people is the knowing the terminology behind the business side of things, which, you know, I learned at a later age, to be honest, and I'm still learning now. But yeah, exclusive license is letting the person purchase the beat outright, and then they can use it however they want without paying back-end royalties to you, unless you have that in the contract.
Yeah. So I was willing to do that. This might sound bad because I didn't really think. I thought the artists were like okay, but none of them really I liked and believed in enough to be like, hey, let's really attack this together.
Right.
You know, let's me. How about me and you? We make songs together. I'll never charge you for a beat, and we put out songs together, which might be a good segue into where I really focus my stuff now, which is Spotify and actually putting out and releasing my own music. But
right. Yeah. So if we look at your journey so far, it's like you put yourself out there on social media to start, and then you posted your music there. You kind of just were consistent with it until you built a following and people enjoyed what you were doing. And then from there, you're starting to collaborate with companies, and now you're starting to get in touch with artists to build the streaming side of things. So that's a cool journey, and like not everyone's going to have that same journey where they're able to, especially I'm sure it's harder to get started now than it was back then.
Maybe.
But you have to start somewhere. So I mean, if you
it depends on what I think. It depends on what you're trying to do. This is not an exaggeration. I say this to everybody. I probably posted on Instagram every single day for like 3 years straight, like every day. Christmas, my birthday, Thanksgiving. Like I was psychotic about it. Like I was just like, I have to get something out, you know, do something. I got to get a video out. Some performed terribly, some performed great. Actually, I would say most performed not great. You know, some performed really good. But so, yeah, it started out with that. But I don't want to make it seem like the social media was not, you know, it was just like, oh, I started uploading some stuff and it happened. You know, it does take a long time, a lot of experimenting and things like that. But yeah, like you said, connecting with some artists, I started to realize, and there's this guy named Nick D and Connor Price. They are really big independent artists. And I started to notice them kind of coming up, and I was like, wow, like they put out a song. They put out a lot of songs. They release, you know, every 2 weeks or every week. And they started talking about their streaming revenue and how much, you know, money they're able to generate from streams. And like, to me, I was like, wow, that's like passive income. You know, that's not, I don't have to sit down and make a beat. And then once the beat's done, I get my couple $100 and then I got to do it again. This is, they make a song and that song is going to make them money for as long as people are listening. So I was like, that is a way better business model. Like that is a way better thing to do, way better ROI, return on investment in the long term, right? There's very few legitimate forms of passive income. Song royalties are one of them. Like in the world, there's like real estate, and song royalties is really like top 3. So I was like, okay, I didn't really know any great artists that I was like, wow, they're really good. But one of the first artists I started working with actually went to my high school. I was like kind of friends with him, not really. We would see each other. His name is Young Crusher, who, if you go to my Spotify, I have a lot of songs out with him. And Young Crusher, Nick would get made fun of in our high school. I remember he was like rapping and like was basically like a joke rapper. Like I think his name was MC Banana Peel, and he was like joking around, rapping. I'm serious. He would like get made fun of all the time, and I was like, you know what, like let me just reach out to this guy, and some of his friends rap, and I was like, all right, like I got nobody, so these are people I can meet with in person and maybe grow together. And when I met up with Nick, we started hanging out. I was like, all right, he's got like talent, he can write. And then I was like, what if he was doing like a lot of like old school rap, like boom bap beats, like, bars, like, all that stuff. I was like, Nick, can you sing a little bit? Like, I think you can sing. When you do like melodic stuff, I think it sounds really good. Like you kind of remind me of the Kid Leroy, some of these other artists. He's like, yeah, I like love Juice WRLD. I was like, okay, let's tap into that style. And that's what we've been doing ever since. He was at 0 monthly listeners in December of 2022. And he peaked, I think, at like 870,000 towards the end of 2023.
Wow.
Literally took him from nothing to something. Not all me. We both did it together. I was a big part of it, but he definitely did it, himself. But I think there's something so valuable in locking in with somebody you believe in, and that's the key, I think.
Right, like collaboration.
I was like, I really think this kid is good.
Yeah.
I really think he's good. Versus, all the people I was making custom beats for, I really didn't think they were, that exceptional. So if you find that person, or you find a couple, like work with them, grow with them. I never charged this guy for beats, not once. Never charged him for a beat once. I'm not like, where's my $200? How we do it? He comes over. We make the song in my studio. I don't charge him for studio time. I don't charge him for, oh, nice. Yeah. I don't charge him for a mix or anything like that. And we just split the song 50-50. Hey, I made the beat. You did the lyrics. I mixed. I'm helping you promote it in videos, 50-50. It keeps things very simple. We might pay for like a mix here and there, but yeah, that's kind of my story of how I went from finding some artists and working with some artists. That might have been a long drawn out way of doing it, but
no, I think it's good for people to understand the big picture of all the things that kind of came together in that journey, especially in the last year, I guess. Right. So
yeah,
that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, we have there was a section in the course that we created, like, how to gain traction on Spotify. It's called How to Get Playlisted on Spotify. And one of the sections was collaboration. And it's such a huge tool on the streaming platforms now, because with a collaboration, you're accessing someone else's audience. So in his case, he was accessing your audience, and then you kind of built together, right?
And go ahead, sorry.
It's a network, right? It's the internet. I mean, people find things through other things, and that's just the nature of how it works.
Yeah.
And just finding someone that you believe in, that really, like, what they do makes you passionate about music. I think that's like the number one guide for that, is like, this is a person I want to work, and forget about money for a second. You're just like, this is a person that makes me feel inspired, makes me feel creative. And I think with that spirit in mind, you can really do good things, so.
Yeah, 100%. And on your collaboration point, that's part of what helped our growth on social media, was collabing with artists, maybe a little bit bigger. Hey, let's feature this guy on the, we work with a kid, artist named Crispy D. He's at like 1 million. He was at like 1.4 million. I think he's at 1.1 million monthly listeners. We had been talking to him for a little while. I think he had like 400,000 monthly listeners at the time. We were at like 100,000. We were like, hey, Chris, will you, feature on this track? And first day I moved into this house, he came, we recorded. And that song ended up being, one of our biggest songs, probably my biggest song, called Charades. So yeah, without Chris's feature, do we get that notoriety from that song? If we don't collab with Chris, do we then not get to collab with somebody else? Or does someone see us from this? So yeah, the collaboration piece is huge. And another thing you were touching on, you said, how do they make you feel inspired? Do they make you, I think a third piece is how efficiently do you guys work?
Right, yeah.
I think it should, I really believe music, should we use this instrument or should we do it like this? Yeah, that all, there's going to be some, give and take there. But at the end of the day, putting out music should be seamless.
Hmm.
I think that gets lost in, if you're like with labels or things like that. It's like we got to go through 10 guys to see if this song, if you're independent and you want to release a lot of music, work with people that make it seamless. They're not going to sit there and be like, yo, you got, like, I did this, can you give me some money for this? Or like, like if I was sitting here every time being like, hey, I mixed that, bro, can you give me $100 and like, I'll pay you back later, or I'll pay this for the ads. It's like, everyone I work with, if it's not the easiest process ever, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? It's just like you're wasting time. It's like, and you lose sight of the art.
Yeah,
a song,
exactly.
a song that you really like, can be ruined by somebody trying to like, get as much money out of it as possible, or nickel and diamond for this.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. And I don't know if
fun.
you've read Rick Rubin's new book. He
Mm-mm.
talks about that, and he also talks about idea exchange and like how to correctly communicate with each other when you're introducing ideas, because that's a big part of the collaboration process. And if you have people that are just like, nah, I don't think that'll work, nah, like before
Yeah.
the idea is even introduced, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to try everything, and you'll
Yeah.
know when it sticks, because you'll both be like, yeah, that's, and
Yep.
if you're,
That's one
unless you're
of
really picky.
Right. Yeah. That's like, dude, that's one of the biggest things I think I've come a long way with.
Mhm.
When I first, because I didn't really start making and releasing music till late 22, like I said, I was like, oh, well, I know what's right. I think my ear, I know what people are going to like. I've made making music for this long, and I think this and that. And I just had this epiphany one day, and I was like, okay, I might be slowing down our process here a little bit. My friend Chris always says, don't let perfection affect progress.
Right.
And then I really had the epiphany where I was like, I am literally just one guy. There are millions of people out there, millions of tastes in music, millions of things. And we are listening to this song that we just made in 40 minutes for the first 3 times. It might not have even grown on me to the point where I like it yet. I've put out songs that I dislike, truthfully, but the artist loves it. And I'm like, all right, hey, if you're rocking with it, let's go. I'm giving my opinion. I'm not saying I just roll over and never be like, hey, let's try this. But
Yeah.
it goes back to that seamlessness of, hey, I'm just one person. If we say the word that versus this, no one's going to notice, and no one even knows. You know what I mean? So little
Yeah.
things, I think I've really tried to step back and be like, hey, if the artist wants to say it like that, or they want the 808 to sound like this, let's do it. You know what I mean? I'll give my 2 cents, and I think the people I work with are good at having a give and take. So yeah.
Yeah, and even when you're by yourself, and I'm starting to do this, like I'll try something and it doesn't work. I don't get discouraged right away. I just kind of like turn the channel off, and I'll come back to that. Maybe I can use it later. And
Yeah.
sometimes I actually come back to it, and I find a way later on in the process of using that
Yeah.
sound that I thought was initially
Right.
garbage, and I'm starting to notice my thinking patterns when that happens.
Yeah.
And man, I wish I noticed that earlier.
Yeah, right. Yeah, isn't it kind of crazy? It's like,
Yeah,
man, if I would have moved my own ego out of the way a little bit, or just been more open thinking, maybe a couple other things would have came to be. So yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah.
So what I wanted to, we kind of like have an idea of your story, and
Yeah.
I wanted to take a perspective from maybe someone that's watching this. We don't have too many viewers right now, but hopefully, I think there's an in-app coming out. But yeah, let us know in the chat if you have any questions for Beautiful Beats. And I wanted to like discover or look into how to talk to someone that maybe has created a track and they've released it on Spotify. So they've done the work behind the music, and they're kind of just digging into the promotional side of things.
Sure. Let's get into it. That's a
Yeah.
great question. So, first off, I'm a big believer in promotion is not limited to a first 2 weeks thing. Just because it's a week, the first week, we got to make sure we do all this stuff. You got to do all this. Your song could be out for 6 months. If you create something great around it, or a piece of content or an advertisement around it, and it gets sent traffic, Spotify is going to be like, whoa, what's going on here? There's been 500 new people listening to this song in the last day. We got to show this to more people. So I want to debunk that myth that just because your first 2 weeks doesn't go well with the song does not mean that it's completely, done for.
Right.
I've actually seen songs 6 months after the fact start to go on Spotify. So, okay, let's dive into it. So typically when I release songs, I think a big part of promotion is being consistent, right? I release a song every single week. It's easy for me because I'm a producer and I have a lot of artists that I, could be like, hey, let's get this one out on the 8th. Let's get this one out on the 15th, So I kind of just co-release with them. But we typically, when we started out, we would run like Instagram story ads. I might shoot a video of the artist like singing along. We'd put the final track in there, and we, pretty simple video, run some ads. I think the audience is just like people who are interested in Spotify, and Instagram and Facebook know more about us than we know about us, so they're gonna find the people that like the music. I think me and the artist, I'd do like $100. Maybe they would do like $100, $200 budget, run the ad. Typically we would, if we were like under 20 cents a click, like 18, 17, 16, sometimes like 13 cents a click, we were really happy with that. We were really happy with that. And then it's kind of like a waiting game. Actually, that's a lie. It's not a waiting game, but you might have some decent streams that first week from running the ad. And then typically I see like a bit of a drop off for a little while. Maybe a song kind of stays level at like a couple hundred streams a day, great. In that time, you can make content for it whenever you want. You know what I mean? If you want to make a video for it, or you're a producer and you want to feature an artist in one of your videos, and start building traffic towards it. I've noticed that it can start to have a nice like boost if you are consistently sending traffic to it. You can get picked up in Spotify's algorithm. The algorithmic playlists like Discover Weekly, radio is a big one for me. So that's kind of what we did. We just released extremely consistently, put out some content for it, ran some ads. I don't even run ads anymore, because we kind of have a decent little audience, and making content for it. The artists are making content. So, I'm trying to think if we did anything else. There's a tool called Discovery Mode on Spotify. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Yeah.
I think it's good in spots. Like if you want to put a song that you think could, do well in Discovery Mode, they take a percentage of the revenue from the streams, but, I've found that them taking that percentage, how much more, streams you get outweighs the percentage that they take. It's kind of like newfound stuff. So I think Discovery Mode is very helpful in spots, especially if you think, wow, like, hey, we ran an ad for this song and it's been doing pretty well. It hasn't really taken off. Let's put it in Discovery Mode, see what it can do. So I think that's another thing that we kind of tested out and saw some success with some songs as well. So I guess the blueprint is release every week. If you can, every 2 weeks is good. Once a month, if there's really no pressure. I try to release every week because it's not that hard for me and I really enjoy it. Run some ads if you can, make some content.
Well, I wanted to ask, because maybe people aren't familiar with the ad buying and how that works. But what does an ad look like for your music? Like what is the piece of content that you're running?
That's a great question. So we've done a couple different things. Sometimes I'll have an artist come to my studio and we'll do like a short form content split screen video where we're showing the DAW and me and the artist, and then we kind of like make the song, from scratch basically. Like remake it so it looks like we're making it from scratch. And sometimes we'll run those as an ad. We've had those perform well. Sometimes I'll go outside to like a park and have the artists sit on a bench and I'll film them, and they're just kind of lip singing to the song, and then we put the final song out. So that would kind of be the ad creative that we do. Sometimes just like the cover art with, the song playing in the background with maybe like a out now on Spotify, also I've seen work for some people. So that's kind of what the creative can look like. But yeah, that's kind of what we do.
That's great. That's good info for people that are looking into doing that. And you said your budget was around $200. And then how do you target? I think Charles had a question. How do you target your audience?
Yeah.
Like he said on streaming platforms, but I guess like in this case for ad buying, you have a target audience. How would you target them to view your ad?
Question. Yeah. So I think now I have a friend who's way better at ads than I am, but if I'm not, and I was never fully in charge of them for the most part, but if I'm not mistaken, I think we would just do like target people who have the interest in Spotify, like the overarching interest in, hey, they are interested in Spotify.
Okay.
Now you might be like, well, what about what genre, what my song? We kind of left that up to Instagram and Facebook to find those, people. Like if I'm making a hip hop song and I'm promoting it, Instagram knows who likes hip hop and who doesn't. It's going to find the people that like hip hop. If a couple people click and Instagram's like, oh, wow, 10 people just clicked on this ad, they all love hip hop. It's probably going to find 25, 30, 40, 100 more people that like hip hop as well. So I think we really just did it as an overarching target towards interest being Spotify. And then now this is another thing I forgot to mention. What country you run to is very important as well. You can get very low cost per click in countries like India, but you're going to get paid less per stream from streams from India. And it also has to do with, where are you from? Where do you want your fan base to be located? I think we did like some of the bigger countries like the United States. I think it's Canada, Australia, and then another two, I think, some of the bigger countries. That was kind of our, tactic. So the cost per click goes up, but, it's a higher quality stream and maybe a fan that you want in a certain place. But cool. So that's kind of the targeting aspect of it.
Yeah. And that's like doing that. If you're just starting out, that's like lighting the fuse for the Spotify algorithm.
Yes.
Because I find, Spotify is not going to just recommend stuff if you put it out and you don't bring any people there, right?
Right.
And this is one avenue of bringing people there. Let's talk about like that. Paid ads is one avenue of bringing people there and having the creative there. But what about organic content? You spoke about just posting every day, and I recently saw like a TikTok of some guy who's like, he was like, yeah, I just blew up my account. This is how I did it. I focused on what I had control on, and that was the amount of times I'm posting. And he said, I don't have control over the views. I only have control over how many pieces of content I can make. And I thought that was a cool attitude to have. Like, you can choose to make more, and you're, it's like a slot machine. The time you put in is the coin, and you're pulling the lever, really.
Right.
Your content, obviously, you want it to be good, but you have to try new things to see what'll work and what sticks to your personality, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell anyone who's like trying to get into content, I tell them that, first off, you might have to post for like 60 days just to figure out, oh, this works. This resonated a little more than this did. Right? Mm-hmm. Like when I have this kind of music in the background, it does better. Or when I start the video like this, it does a little bit better. Or when the lighting is this and not that, it like so much of it is experimenting.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. Like if you scroll through my feed on Instagram, it's like, oh, he really made a lot of like producer motivational videos for a while. And then he made a bunch of tutorials for like 2 months. Then he was making skits. I was dressing up as a wizard in a wizard costume. Dude, I swear I went to like the costume store twice a week to go buy like a fake beard and a top hat. Like I was like, because I was like, okay, maybe, I need to start doing skits. I saw some people doing skits. Maybe that'll be better for me. And I was like, okay, the ROI is not here. I really don't like dressing up as different things that much. So let me cut that out. I'm not a good actor. So I was like, okay. And then like, if you scroll down a little bit more, you might be like, oh, he really like was into lo-fi for like 3 months. And then he liked EDM. It's like, I was just throwing stuff at the wall, basically. Some of it's
and the trends were, I guess that's you seeing what stuck and you were doubling down on it, kind of, right? Is that
100% every time? So like, it's funny, people make like those sample this videos where it's like, use this sample. I think I was one of the first humans ever to do a sample this video back in like 2018, and I did them forever and they did pretty well, like, hey, this is working. And then they stopped working for a while. And then I was like, darn, like that was something that was working and now it's not. And then recently, like the last 2-3 months, I kind of reshaped it. Instead of just putting sample this, I put, hey, I'm looking for somebody to turn this sample into a hit. And I kind of made it a little more cinematic. And I started making like R&B samples rather than trap samples. And for 2-3 months, those did incredibly well. Best videos I've ever performed. Now recently they have not been doing as well. So it's time to switch it up again. But yeah, I mean, that's experimenting is like a massive part of it. And it's tough, dude. It's so tough to not look at the views or the likes or the comments. Like, I try to remind myself that nobody's looking at it as much as you are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're insecure about how many views you got, it's like, first off, if you didn't get a lot of views, nobody saw it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I try to remind myself to be like, hey, it's on to the next one. And now, like, I'm kind of in a slump with views and likes right now for whatever reason on Instagram. Like, I'm not getting as much as I was last month. I used to get
here, actually.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
On the Lander channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're trying some new stuff. I think we did like an ASMR thing that I'm editing now, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it's easy to get discouraged, but you have to realize that these are just algorithms serving up the freshest and best stuff they can find, right?
Yes.
And, food goes rotten, so does content formats.
That is a great way to put it. You're absolutely right. Yeah. 100%.
And no one's scrolling through your profile being like, oh, 70 views on that. And only you're doing that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just, you just have to do it often. And that's that. I've watched a couple of videos of that guy, Nick D, as well.
No, he's
and it
great.
does help that he's basically Chris Evans in a pop star country form, but
yeah,
he's got that going. He's got a bonus there, but his content is good and his music is really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is all really insightful stuff. And I'm wondering on the playlisting side, since that is in the title, I'm wondering if we can kind of discuss that last. Like there are strategies to submit to user-generated playlists. There's the Spotify algorithmic playlists. There's the Spotify editorial playlists. Am I missing anything? I think those are the three main buckets, and then there's all the scam stuff at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Fake streams and just
right.
Illegitimate companies. But I wonder if you can dive into your experience with that.
Yeah, this might sound harsh, but I will never pay to be on a playlist ever.
And no one should, really.
No, never pay, bro. If someone's trying to pay, I don't know if I don't even know if I don't know if there's a ton of value being on a user generated playlist. I think there are some. I think there's some, cool playlist. If you get on them, hey, that's great. But be aware that it's it's as easy as, hey man, $50 will get you on this playlist for a week. They turn around and buy $20 worth of fake streams. They pocket the other $30. I think Spotify algorithmic playlists are really where, you see the most growth.
Right.
Which, you don't have as easy direct access to those, right? It's not like you can pay your way in. It's, growing and sending traffic to Spotify like we talked about.
Yeah.
But that's where I've seen the most growth. I never found any success with getting on a playlist. When I used to put out like EDM music a long time ago, and I used to like be like, oh, $30 to be on this playlist with 40,000 followers, and it would spike for a little bit and then drop down. It was clearly nothing real.
And you're at risk of getting your music taken down if.
Oh yeah.
So that's a big risk for. The reward isn't worth it, and some people just don't know about that, right? So
yeah. Oh, they don't. I feel bad for them. Yeah, and there really is. You said the reward isn't worth it. There really is no reward.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Those streams are probably not even getting paid for those streams for the top dollar stream because they're probably, the cheapest possible accounts, the cheapest, all that. So, but yeah, I guess you can control one playlist, that's algorithmic playlist, which is Release Radar. So whenever you're, putting out a song, go into your Spotify for artists, make sure you pitch it, a week in advance or, whenever you're able to. I think I do a week in advance because I have a song the prior week. That'll get you on Release Radar, which is a playlist for all of your followers. So every Spotify user has a Release Radar. Whoever I'm following will be on my Release Radar. So that's one playlist, algorithmic playlist that you can control, which is very nice as you get an audience. If you have a lot of followers, once again it becomes a social media platform. If you have followers that aren't engaged, if you're not putting out stuff consistently or good stuff that people like, your followers can become on Spotify can also become not as, prevalent for you, just as like it is on Instagram or, whatever. So
right.
You gotta keep feeding Spotify just as much as you keep feeding, everything else. But that's my take on playlists, man. Yeah. I think there's really no value in getting on a user generated playlist. Listen, if you put out a song and someone organically is like, man, I'm adding that to my playlist, I can't wait. Great. That's awesome. Or if someone happens to have like a big lo-fi playlist and you get on their playlist, great. I think there are some good playlists to get on, but if somebody's like twisting your leg to get, $50 out of you to be on a playlist for a week, just stick to the organic route. It'll pay off.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, if we come full circle here, it's like, you have to send people to Spotify for them to feature your music in their algorithm. And it's the methods that you do that. And I think there are some people that may have gotten lucky with organic playlisting that kind of sparks the fuse. Social media and redirecting people is another one, and that can be a whole other thing. And then buying ads and putting yourself out there in the paid algorithms. To get a paid audience to click through and go to your Spotify. It's another route. Is there anything we're missing there on like getting people? I mean, there's obviously like local, like build a local fan base, right? Like go in person, give out QR codes, check out my music. I'm
the worst. I'm probably the worst at that ever, but I need to get out of my house more often and actually do that. But
if you're a band, though, I think that's a bit that's a bit easier, right? So,
and even I'm just a producer, but as an artist, I all the time I'm like, what if we did like a little show or did that? Word of mouth is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it some with the artists I work with, but yeah, I think the more data that you can give Spotify, like just you uploading a song, they don't have any information on who likes it. They know that this group of 75 people like this or like this kind of music, but they don't know who's going to like it. So they just have to, bring them data, bring them people that will listen, and they'll find you more, because that's their whole goal, is to keep people listening to Spotify. They want them on their app. So if your song keeps them on the app, perfect. It's literally as simple as that. If your song keeps them listening, they will show it to more people.
That's how all these algorithms work, really.
Oh, that's all it is.
Yeah.
If you got good watch time on your video, and you keep people watching for the whole 15 seconds or 20 seconds of your video, and people are on there commenting, that's all they want. They're not looking at your video like, well, he didn't have good lighting, he didn't have this. They're looking at it like, all from a numbers perspective. Like,
Mm.
how long did they keep people on the app? Did they keep scrolling after? Did they, which once again is a lot of things we don't have control over. But yeah, that's really how they're looking at it. It's all a money thing.
Yeah.
The more you're on the app, the more ads they can show you. So that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, and like the more value your content brings to their subscription, right? If
Right.
it's a paid model like YouTube Premium or Spotify. But yeah, no, it's it all seems very complicated when you're first starting out, but it really boils down to that, and it becomes very simple in a way. It's just all the little, minute
Yeah.
stuff you have to worry about. I think. And be
I think
aware of.
I think a big part of social media that it's very, when you first start, you feel so like anything, you feel so like clunky doing it. You're like, God, this just took me 2 hours to edit. You know what I mean? It's like your first time you jump on a bike. I hate to use that analogy, but it's like, you're gonna fall off 4 times, but it's like then you become extremely efficient. Like, editing takes no time for me anymore. Or, putting together, oh, I know how to do that. Okay, great. Put it together. I think some of those little things, like, how do I edit on Instagram Reels? Like, this is, but once you become efficient, I think it becomes a lot easier. That I think is the biggest thing for when people start. They're like, God, this is so tedious. I have to do this, and now I got to do a voiceover. How do I do a voiceover? Once you become efficient at that stuff, it becomes a lot easier as well. So I think that's a big, thing.
Yeah, it's just getting the experience, and then you start planning your content around the way you're going to edit it, and it just becomes faster and faster.
That too. Yeah, there's so many little things, right? There's so many little tricks of the trade that can really, speed up your process. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's get into some of the questions here. So, how do you target your audience on streaming platforms? Do you look at your Spotify for Artists profile and look at where your audiences are streaming from, or like your distributor platform to see all of the streaming services that they're on? Is that something that you actively do, or are you mostly focused on Spotify?
Yeah, I'm always curious. I go to my Spotify for Artists and I, look. I think we have for whatever reason, like, get a good amount of streams from Australia. Majority of them come from the United States, but some are from Australia. I personally, like, as long as it's from some of like the bigger countries, and that's fine with me. I'm not planning on going on tour myself, so I'm not super concerned about having a big fan base in New York or in LA. But yeah, so I do occasionally look into that. I don't know. Aside from running the ad, and who you're targeting in the ad to get people there, I don't know why we have such a massive, big part of our fan base in Australia. I don't know. So sometimes I don't think you have as much control over that as you might like. But, a fan is a fan. Someone that likes your music likes your music. So I look at it, but I don't really worry too much about it.
Did you ever double down on location for paid stuff when you were doing it?
We didn't, honestly.
Okay.
I think we always kind of kept like the 5 or 6 big countries. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe once in a while we would do U.S. only, United States only, just to see how it went. But not that I remember now.
Cool. Well, that's good to know. I mean, paid ads can be tricky when you first start to do them. It's like some people just throw the money down the drain. But I think they've made it a bit more streamlined now. So. Here's another question from James. How do you feel about James Blake and releasing on Vault? How do you feel about sites like Patreon to build fan bases?
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, I like James Blake. I like a couple of his songs. I think I tried to do a Patreon, and I kind of found like I was already making content, but then I needed content for the Patreon.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I kind of felt like I was doing even more work to feed an audience, but I don't know, maybe if there's something simple you can do for like a paid subscription every month, I think that's great. So I think the James Blake scenario maybe is like he's releasing an album for specific people who are going to pay this every month. And I think Nick D does that as well. He has like I think it's called Grouped, is like a little thing that he does. He'll release like unreleased songs just to the people that are in his little, community. If you can make it work, make it work. If you're like, damn, I got tons of songs I'd love to share to people, but I can only release once a week. Make a little group, start having people come into it. Maybe you give them, discounted merch. I think if you can make that work, that's another great form of that passive revenue. If you got, 200 people paying $5 a month, it's $1,000 a month that you're probably going to get every month, as long as you're keeping those people satisfied. So I think it's a great idea if you can make it work.
Yeah, it seems like you'd need a highly engaged fan base from the get-go to even start thinking about doing that. So
yes,
that would be down the line if you're just starting out. But yeah, it's good to know when you do get there that's the thing.
Yeah.
Taylor Laurie says, I miss so much.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe 1 o'clock isn't the right time for us. No, we were streaming at 3 for a bit, and then we switched to 1. We had some success, but maybe 3 is the new number again. We'll keep going back and forth. I think maybe at night too, but I don't want to come all the way here at night. But we'll figure it out.
We will figure it out.
We're just talking about the algorithm now. It's the same algorithm for streaming, right? Yeah. That being said, I think people will find this after, and I think they'll watch a bunch of it, because there was a lot of great info that even I learned in this stream that will, for those who don't know, I'm kind of like taking the first step into going to try to actively promote an original album. So
awesome.
Yeah, I got some content ideas. I might just go dirty just with the phone for now.
I used a phone. I used a phone for like the first 5 years. I didn't get a camera till last year, so phone's great.
Yeah, I'll have the connection for the DAW so you get the high quality audio, but just film the screen, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Whatever works.
Yeah. But
Try
we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is all great information, and thanks so much for coming on the stream to, tell us about your journey. I think it's going to help so many people realize, not every starting point is the same, but all of the steps, they're all interconnected in a way where you have to kind of find your path, and you need to hit all of these things in order to get some traction to get your music out there. So
yeah.
We have a good question actually before we leave.
Let's
finish
do
it
it
off with this one. Any recommendations on planning ahead and scheduling music production sessions? This is a good one for you because you said you're doing tracks every week. So what's your schedule look like?
It's a great question. My daily schedule is I wake up about 7:30. I go to the gym, and then I kind of just figure it out, whatever I need to do that day. But yeah, like scheduling out releases is interesting. Like I think having 2, 3, or 4 artists that you really like to work with makes it a little bit easier. I can send a loop to this person and they'll record something. I'll make the beat and they'll finish it. And then I have people locally. So like, at the start of every week, I might hit up 2 of my artists that live near me and I'd be like, what's your schedule like? What day would you like to cook up? And typically, I do my whole day and they come over around like 5 or 6. And then we have our sessions at the end of the day. So just staying on people, being like, hey, did you finish? Where's that verse at? Did you get that verse done, or did you get that hook done? Or, hey, I'm finishing this mix, does March 29th work for you to release? So I think staying on people kind of helps you with the release process. And then as far as production sessions go, I just do it whatever I can fit in, wherever I can fit it in. If I got Thursday night free, great. Let's see who can come over, and go from there. I kind of we like the song, let's get it out, let's schedule it. And then if you do, you have a good month, you might make 7 songs and you got the next month and a half, planned out. And now you got some time to work on some new stuff. And so once you kind of get some songs scheduled out, you got some breathing room, and, but that's how I do it. I just hit up people and be like, when are you free? And then I'll have them over. But
yeah. Cool. And, I guess I could share my perspective as someone that's not really collaborating with people at the moment. I have kids, so I don't have a lot of time, but I always make sure to set at least an hour per day where I at least try to get some stuff done. Sometimes it's not good, and sometimes it is really good. But I've noticed if you don't set that time for yourself, you'll end up with more bad sessions than good, because it is just a numbers game again of just staying consistent with creation.
Right.
And like same with content on social media. It's
Right.
just it is a grind that you just have to be happy doing and having fun being creative. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, if you're not having fun doing it, I would recommend not doing it and go find something that you have fun with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you curate your own playlists?
I don't. I mean, I have like my, playlist that I just, have made over the years for myself, but I don't have any public playlists now.
Okay.
No. Or like my personal one is public for whatever reason, but I don't actively am like, trying to make my own and build it up and, have people follow it. So no.
Yeah, because I've seen paid ads for playlists too.
Yeah.
Like to just get people to join the playlist.
100%. Yeah. It's not a bad idea, to be honest. I've seen people do it before where like they'll have, it'll be like, come listen to my sad rap playlist. And like 10 of their songs out of the 30 on the playlist are theirs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's another way to kind of skirt around the discovery of your music, is like creating a playlist and then sharing that playlist with other people. Paid ads are on that playlist that include your own songs. I've seen those do well. But it's good to know. And I see like artists will have a featured playlist and it's theirs with their own music on it on the page
it's
too.
definitely not a bad thing.
Yeah. Now all the questions are coming in right at the end. Yeah.
Let's do it. I've got time. Let's answer some.
How long does it take to make a song from scratch to release?
That's a good question.
I'll go first because it's.
Go ahead.
I've set a modest goal of 1 track a month because that's just what
I
I
like
like.
that.
That's what I can do with my time, and I like to really sculpt the track.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm hoping to increase that once I get in the flow a bit more. But you go ahead because you're the guest. I should let you go first.
No, that's okay. That's a good way to do it. I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where one of the artists I work with is like, the dude's a freak. Like I can have a loop running. I'll go like lay down in my bed, watch TikTok for 15 minutes. I'll come back and he'll have like the whole hook written. And I'm like, okay, great. My most popular song on Spotify, it took us 30 minutes.
Wow.
30 minutes. Now, that's 3 people all on the same boat of, hey, we like this loop. Cool. I like this guitar part. Let me add some drums to this. All right, Nick, you record. All right, Chris, you record the hook. Okay, great. I'll mix it tomorrow. And my mixing process is about as simple as it gets. I just level everything, throw my master chain on there. Yeah, we recorded it in 40 minutes. Our songs are typically pretty short. They're usually only about in that minute 20 to minute 40 range, some minute like 15. So, it's really just hook verse hook.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. Not every song goes as smoothly as that, but for me, typically it's never really more than a couple hours.
Right.
I can make a beat quick. It's just like, okay, we have this guitar, cool. Let me add drums, let me arrange it, and then if the artist records, and then either I'll mix it or somebody else will mix it if we want to send it off. But yeah, it's usually never a couple hours, and we typically know if we like it or not. And if we like it, put it out. If not, don't. But I'm a big advocate for short songs. Some people get really upset when I say that, but
interesting.
We've just kept them very simple, very digestible is the word I like to use. It's when somebody listens to it, they know exactly what they're hearing, what the concept is, what's going on, the words, it's relatable. So concept, keeping it short is big for us, we think. And, if a song's a minute and 15 seconds long and people want to listen to it, if they want to listen to it on repeat, they'll listen to it 10 times in 10 minutes rather than twice in 10 minutes.
Right. Makes sense.
Which is more streams. But some people get a little upset with that because they're like, you're not making art, you're just doing da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, just because something is efficient does not mean it's not art. Doesn't mean, I'm not writing about, a girl or, a situation I was in or something. It's not like it's not coming from the heart. We still make art, but we enjoy making short songs. It's just
it's just
we
a
like.
different format. And like, if people are enjoying it, and that's all that matters, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever make longer songs and just chop it down to the 120? That's a question from the chat here.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, you know what? I think we kind of do that. I wouldn't say they're that much longer, but yeah, sometimes it's like, hey, do we really need this, second verse, or what if we just do like a guitar solo instead of this? Or let's cut out that 4 or 8 bar guitar intro and outro to, we call it trimming the fat. Let's trim the fat a little bit off this. And, so yeah, we definitely have cut stuff down. I would never say that we've made like a 4-minute song and cut it down to a 2-minute song, but we definitely try to condense as much as possible.
Yeah, just keep people engaged and listening. Yeah, a lot of the feedback I do give like people that send me stuff is, the intro needs to be really short. Unless it's a genre that would support like a big building intro. But you need to get to the point, right? Like,
right.
Just like content on social media, if you get to the point right away, people know what they're getting into. They're more likely to listen or watch the whole thing. So,
right.
That's the times we live in.
Yeah, either fortunately or unfortunately,
Yeah. That's just,
I don't mind making short songs and keeping it simple because that's, less time. Time is your most valuable asset. So
exactly, yeah. That being said,
we're out of time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the stream. I appreciate it, and I hope to have you back soon. And we can maybe dig into some other, maybe like music production side of things. Looking at how you work in your sessions would be a really cool insight, I think, for me and or for our viewers. I'm thinking. Yeah,
I think I could ruffle some feathers with that as well. I think some people would have some issues with how I do that too, but I think it'd be interesting to look into for sure.
But it's the same thing at the end of the day. If people are enjoying it, that means
you've
done the work. So
sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's a thing to be said about over mixing and just getting it sounding palatable, and as long as it sounds the way you want it to sound, yeah, that's it.
You are saying all the right things. I agree.
Right on. Well, thanks so much again, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next week for some track feedback again. I think it went really well, and I'm looking forward to listening to more music and hopefully helping you out. But yeah, we'll see you next week, and thanks, Beautiful Beats, for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later.
See ya.